Okay, we will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please. Oh, God, I turned that thing off.
Directors Penn, Dwyer, Anzini, and Mansfield present. Director Day is absent. General Manager Vandiar, General Counsel Polson, and Board Clerk Sullivan present.
Okay, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Dwyer, would you start us off?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're at the point where we're going to adopt the agenda.
President Anzini, staff is requesting that consent calendar item number 5 be removed from today's agenda.
Okay. We'll move on to communications. General Manager?
We still need to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Minus.
Okay.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as is with removal of item number 5.
If members of the public would like to address the board, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the adoption of today's agenda with item 5 removed, moved by Director Mansfield and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Okay. Please vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, voting aye, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we'll go here to the communications. General Manager?
Thank you. Today I have a recognition. The district received a call from Margaret, an EID customer, expressing her appreciation for the outstanding service provided by Justin Stockwell and Corey Duarte, construction and maintenance workers in the drinking water division. Margaret shared her gratitude for the crew's efficient response, noting that they were polite, knowledgeable, and addressed the issue quickly. Their actions demonstrate our commitment to excellent customer service, one of our guiding principles, and we commend Justin and Corey for their professionalism and positive impact on our customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We love it when our employees are highly recommended and we receive all good things. Thank you. Public comment. Are there any members in the audience who wish to make a public comment? Please rise to the podium and state your name.
If members of the public would like to address the board for items not on today's agenda, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak.
All right, we will move to communications. General Manager?
Thank you. I have a few items to share today. First, we have an upcoming board workshop on the cost of service and rate setting processes scheduled for Tuesday, March 3rd at 5:30. We will follow up with a board calendar invite as well as a website posting. I also wanted to mention that the City of Placerville facility capacity charge presentation was moved to the February 10th meeting at the request of the city. And then lastly, I want to share that I'm participating on a select work group on the Association of California Water Agencies work, creating a vision for our water future. And it is developing messaging that will be shared with gubernatorial candidates to educate them on the needs of California. And I am a representative for Region 3 on that committee. Thank you.
All right. Clerk to the board?
None today, thank you.
Board of Directors. Director Penn.
I just have two meetings I attended. Last Tuesday, I attended along with General Manager Vandiar and Recreation Manager Bertram, the Motherlode Trail Stewardship meeting, looking at trying to maximize the integration of trails within the community. And then on Thursday, up in Pollock Pines, Supervisor Brooke Lane held a community meeting with Our Egg, and attended that also. And at a certain point, I was introduced and spoke with a number of constituents, and I have some items I'll be talking with General Manager after this meeting. So, thank you.
Okay, any other? That is completion of our communications. We now will move to approve the consent calendar.
Move consent -5.
Before we entertain a second, I'd like to request we pull item number 2 for separate consideration, and I'll recuse myself. I engage in a contract with Matt Vierkamp Vineyards, which is a separate and distinct entity from Doug Vierkamp Vineyards, but they share common ownership.
As stated.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, so
President Anzini, if I might jump in here,
yes.
I would like to note and have the record reflect that Director Mansfield will be participating in the consideration of consent item number 3. As you might recall, he has historically recused himself from that item for the same reason that he just stated, because Doug Vierkamp Engineering is the contractor on the Res 1 emergency project. I would like for the record to reflect today that the sections of the public contract code that are listed in that consent item number 3 agenda item require that the board, with a supermajority 4/5 vote, ratify the emergency declaration at every regular meeting until the emergency is resolved. As you note, today we only have 4 board members present, and so notwithstanding that Director Mansfield has stated that he has a disqualifying conflict of interest, he will be participating in today's agenda item under my advice, because the Political Reform Act and its implementing regulations authorize a board member who has a disqualifying conflict of interest to participate in a vote when that vote is legally required. The statute and its implementing regulations define what is legally required as a vote necessary to assemble a quorum, and a quorum is also defined as the minimum number of members required to vote when a supermajority is required. So that was a mouthful, but the short version is that the Political Reform Act authorizes Director Mansfield to participate in today's vote on the Res 1 emergency project, and because it requires a supermajority, he will participate in that vote today.
Okay. So where are we? We're on
Call for public comment.
Call for public comment.
If any members of the public would like to address the board on the approval of today's consent calendar with the removal of consent calendar item number 5 at the adoption of today's agenda, and item number 2 pulled for consideration later, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2. President Anzini, there does not appear to have any, we have any members of the public wishing to speak. I believe we're ready to vote on the approval of the consent calendar, moved by Director Penn, seconded by Director Dwyer, with Mansfield pulling item number 2 and item number 5 being removed.
Okay, board members vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, voting aye, motion carries.
All right, we will move on to the action items.
We have to move to number 2.
Oh,
Move 2.
thank you. It's not one of those good days for me. Okay, item number 2 for...
Moved by, option 1 was moved by Director Penn and seconded by Director Dwyer. Would you like me to call for public comment?
Yes.
If members of the public would like to address the board on consent calendar item number 2, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on consent calendar item number 2, option 1, moved by Director Penn and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Okay. Board members vote.
Division 1, 2, and 4, voting aye, motion carries.
All right. Okay, that concludes our consent calendar. We will move on to the action items. Item number 6.
Good morning, board members, members of the public. My name is Pravani Vandya. I'm the General Manager for El Dorado Irrigation District, and I'm going to be presenting to you today on the Sacramento Water Forum 2050 agreement. This has been a project near and dear to my heart, both before coming to the district, but also being here at the district, and represents a significant milestone both for EID and for the region. Previous board action items that have occurred in 1995, the board authorized our general manager at the time to represent the district in water forum meetings and essentially to participate in the water forum, and that shows you the history of when the water forum started. The board in 2000 approved a water forum procedural agreement and authorized the general manager to sign on the district's behalf. And then 2025, the board approved annual funding for the Sacramento Water Forum. A summary of the issue. This agreement is regionally negotiated agreement that is voluntary and guided by how Sacramento area stakeholders manage water supply reliability and protect the Lower American River through 2050. The Water Forum consists of water providers, environmental groups, business groups, and local government working to balance water supply and environmental protection. The Water Forum represents a legacy of regional collaboration with 25 plus years of partnership amongst the various members. The Water Forum 2000 agreement engaged 40 agencies and organizations united around shared goals of protecting the Sacramento region's water supply and the Lower American River. It worked to build trust, resolve conflicts, and investing in long-term sustainability. The impact of the Water Forum 2000 agreement has been that critical infrastructure projects have been advanced without ending in court. Significant habitat enhancements have happened on the Lower American River. There's been rapid unified responses to drought and water crises. The Water Forum gained a reputation with state and federal agencies as the leading scientific voice on the Lower American River and created a strong regional culture of trust, collaboration, and transparencies that others are hoping to emulate through the state. Why a new agreement was needed? Climate change is reshaping our water reliability and river health. We have declining river flows and rising temperatures threatening fish and recreation. We have reduced reliability of surface water supplies for urban areas. There's greater risks of external claims on the American River water, and there's increased drying of soils and vegetation, stressing our ecosystems. Technical studies confirm the urgency of working through projecting more frequent droughts, earlier runoff, and greater risks to both water supply and river health, and this emphasizes the need to collaborate. Growing pressures from new regulations and affordability challenges, groundwater sustainability, permanent statewide conservation mandates, and rising operational and compliance costs for water providers emphasize the need for this agreement. The Water Forum Agreement commitments include habitat enhancement, flow management standards, increased conjunctive use, a foundation of funding success, and effective advocacy for commitments for regional coordination and water management. The Water Forum's co-equal objectives provide a reliable and safe water supply for the region, preserve fishery, wildlife, recreation, and aesthetic values of the Lower American River. Both of these are extremely important. Program areas within the Water Forum 2050 agreement include the American River Climate Adaptation Program, which is the cornerstone, the American River Flows and Operations, American River Corridor Health, Regional Water Supply Sustainability, Scientific Monitoring and Decision Support, Governance, Funding, and Administration. Each program area includes guiding principles, commitments, and key activities. The graphic over there is from the Water Forum 2050 reports.
Question. We talk about the Lower American River. What is the point of delineation between Upper American River and Lower American River?
Good question. And okay.
Yeah, the delineation is Folsom Dam. Anything below it is considered the Lower American, and then anything above it is considered the tributaries of the Lower American, or, you know, the South Fork, North Fork, Middle Fork.
Thank you. Approval of the agreement is beneficial for EID specifically in that we participate in a trusted regional collaborative. We participate in protection of the Lower American River. It strengthens regional resilience to climate-driver water challenges. We continue to improve science and data for the Lower American River to track conditions and trends. It improves coordination locally, regionally, and at the state, including regulators, and it does not impede on existing water rights or regulatory authority. The cost allocation that EID pays into is determined on connection counts, and funding goes towards groundwater protection, American River diversions, funding is factored on connection counts, groundwater protection, and American River diversions, and to each of those categories are associated benefits. So depending on how EIDs factored in, which is obviously on connection counts, the associated benefit is related to environmental stewardship, maintaining peace on the river, as well as assistance in regulatory settings. You can see here that the participants in the 2050 agreement is a diverse group of organizations. The entities with the asterisk or the star next to their names have been involved and have been a signatory since the 2000 agreement, so there is a vast history there, including 4 EID. Since the original Water Forum agreement in 2000, the region has invested in major infrastructure projects without opposition or lawsuits. That is huge, a phenomenal success of the prior agreement. And the agreement creates trust and transparency amongst different groups, making it easier to respond quickly to crises such as the long droughts without lots of conflict. Purveyor-specific agreements were created for water purveyors that achieved co-equal goals and acknowledged specific projects or purveyor goals. The support for the Water Forum co-equal objectives include, under River Corridor Health, the Upper American River flow releases. For EID, that's the FERC, Project 184, Healthy Rivers and Landscapes, and the Water Forum. Water Conservation, the Drought Action Plan, the Central Valley Project Restoration Fund, temperature control devices at EID's Folsom Lake intake, irrigation management system programs, and relying on the Consumnes River supplies to the greatest extent possible. Under water supply reliability, our CIP investments are included, and expansion of water treatment and transmission facilities. In support of the co-equal goals, potentially it provides transfer water in normal years, that's for groundwater recharge, and during dry years or the driest years, it meets the lower American River demand. The source is for reservoir reoperation or conservation. We also have a recycled water program that contributes to the co-equal goals objectives. Under EID's commitments, we look at the Consumnes versus the American River, and the district will rely on the Consumnes River supplies to the greatest extent possible to meet our customer demands. Quantities available dependent on watershed conditions and reservoir storage can be used for transfers. The projects listed here promote the Water Forum co-equal objectives and demonstrate EID's participation and continued commitment to the agreement. I'm now going to play a movie that was put together by the Water Forum. It's a great movie, so bear with me as we try to engage.
It's a great joy to live in a community where a river runs through it.
It's really one of the greatest resources we have in this region. It's the crown jewel.
It's the biggest and most important recreational asset of the county of Sacramento. Gets about 8 million visitor users per year.
There's over 2.2 million water users just in this local region. All of them want water reliability, and all of them want a healthy ecosystem.
Preserving habitat for salmon is really important. We're doing what we can to help keep a cycle going and support something that's been happening for millions of years. And hopefully it continues to happen in perpetuity.
The first Water Forum agreement came about under really contentious times between land developers and environmentalists.
The whole thing was covered by a sort of a community consensus of we're in this together.
The original Water Forum agreement was consequential to the continued health of the American River.
Now, 25 years later, the warming planet is dominating so much. In order to make sure that the river stays healthy, it's important to update the Water Forum agreement.
I think Water Forum 2050 is going to help the river by building on the past, but looking toward the future.
It's important to update the agreement now because we've had significant changes since the original agreement in 2000. There's more people in the region, but we're also facing climate change and the effects that that's going to come.
The new agreement is primarily an extension of the old agreement, but we're going to get into some of the more technical things of how do we really make sure that we protect the river in a serious drought, and how do we protect the fisheries and the other values of the river, given that we're going to have bigger storms and we're going to have longer droughts.
The 5 program areas of the Water Forum 2050 agreement are the flows and operations, corridor health, water supply sustainability, science monitoring and decision support, and governance funding and administration. Another big part of the agreement is the American River Climate Adaptation Program.
RCAP is a combination of water resource management, water efficiency. It's infrastructure that's being diversified in the right way, so the timing of water supplyability is as optimum as you can get for the benefit of this ecosystem, as well as the water supply needs of this region.
Groundbreaking. For the business community, this means certainty. You have to have a strong water system as the foundation for economic development and growth in the region. This will help to ensure that we have that stable supply of water while not sacrificing any for the environmental quality of the American River.
it speaks highly of the community itself, that it has enough shared values that we can commit to working together to care for such a beautiful resource.
The importance of Water Forum 2050 really highlights what you can get done when you have people who care at the table.
All right, that concludes the presentation. So, board options. Option 1 is to approve the Water Forum Agreement 2050, including the El Dorado Irrigation District Purveyor-specific agreement, and authorize the general manager to sign on behalf of the district.
Move on.
And if there's any questions, I have Ashley Casey, Executive Director from the Water Forum. We have Jordan Baxter, Brian Polson, myself to answer any questions.
I'll second.
All right, this is fairly easy. I saw the characters recognized several people in the movie, but thank you for that presentation, General Manager. It looks like our board is ready to agree and join the new Water Forum. So, there's one and there's one. So any public comments on this?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 6, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 6. Option 1 moved by Director Penn and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Before we vote?
If I may just offer a small insight. I had the honor and privilege of participating in the negotiations of the agreement with the Water Forum over the course of the last more years than we thought it would take. But there was a point in time when it honestly wasn't clear whether or not we were really going to be able to see it through. And I just want to call out the leadership of Ashley Casey and also our general manager, who at the time was overseeing the Water Forum in her capacity as the director of utilities at the city of Sacramento. Without Pravani and without Ashley, I genuinely am not sure we would have gotten to this point. Their leadership helped at the time, sort of very divergent views come together and help see a vision that got us through to the end. So I just want to express my gratitude to Ashley and to Pravani. I think this is a huge milestone, and it was an honor to participate. Thank you.
Perfect. Any comments?
Just talking to folks at the Regional Water Authority and and the interaction in my year on the board, it is clear that working together we get more accomplished, and breaking down institutional barriers, we're able to serve the needs of all the different divergent communities within our region. And I know this is a long and sometimes painful activity, and as Brian had indicated, the people who worked on this are to be commended.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board members? Okay, we have a first and a second. All those ready to vote, please do.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4 voting aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. A lot of hard work on that one. So now we'll move on to item number 7, and this is regarding our El Dorado Canal fuel break project. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, board. Is it too late in the month to say Happy New Year? Happy belated New Year?
No, not,
No?
yeah,
Good.
well,
I didn't
maybe.
think so.
You're okay.
All right. Good morning again. My name is Doug Venable. I'm an environmental review analyst here at the district. I'll be presenting a contract amendment for the El Dorado Canal fuel break project. for your consideration this morning. Next slide. Previous board actions include the October 2023 adoption of the board resolution to execute the CAL FIRE grant agreement. And in July of last year, we awarded GE Forestry the contract to do the work. Next slide. To summarize today's item, GE Forestry started work on the project back in last November. You remember when we had rain? It seems like the dry January is a little extreme for me. GE Forestry contract amendment, this amendment includes the removal of additional trees in the project area that were either hanging over the canal or too close to the canal to remove without either climbing or rigging, and to do it safely. The amendment also includes additional fuels treatments that were required by CAL FIRE and the Forest Service that we had to do after we had already started the project. Next slide. So a bit of context for today's item. The district was awarded a CAL FIRE California Climate Investments Grant for $787,500 in late 2023 to create a shaded fuel break along a 3-mile stretch of the El Dorado Canal. The canal, as you know, is a critical piece of our infrastructure and supplies about 1/3 of our drinking water to over 125,000 customers. We probably all remember the catastrophic 2021 Caldor fire that destroyed 4 of the district's wooden flumes, which took over 7 months of around-the-clock emergency repairs to bring the canal back online at a substantial cost to the district. I believe it was in the neighborhood of $30 million in damages. Next slide. The El Dorado Canal Fuel Break project was designed to create a shaded fuel break along 3 miles of the canal. The project area contains our longest and most vulnerable flumes. The fuel reduction work included thinning and removal of vegetation up to 18 inches DBH, or diameter at breast height, and extend up to 300 feet on each side of the canal. This work tied into an existing Sierra Pacific Industries fuel break on the west and the canal burn scar, on the east. The project is designed to help protect over 5,700 feet of wooden flumes. And I did a quick calculation. The actual flume length is 5,868 feet in the project area, and that's about 1.1 miles. This represents...
Can you go back to that?
You bet.
I think this is a good depiction of the situation that the fuel reduction folks like yourself and the boots on the ground have to deal with. You notice on the right there how steep that slope is. Traditional hand thinning is really tough in an area like that, and fall protection, and because right below that, I believe, is Highway 50.
That's right. It parallels Highway 50 for several miles.
Right.
And yeah, when you say steep, it's even hard to walk down it. I agree with that. Before we move on.
I'd skied on that. I would have walked that.
Yeah. So again, this project is about 1.1 miles, and that represents 74% of the total, I think it's 1.5 wooden flumes that we have on the canal system. So this project really encapsulates a good majority of our wooden flumes. Okay. So this is a scaled out map of the project area. The blue line running east to west there is the canal, and the yellow shaded area on the bottom is the Caldor burn scar. And that red hashed area right in the middle is the project footprint. It's 125 acres, about 1/3 of district lands, and about 2/3 Forest Service lands in this project area. Next slide. So to your point, Director Dwyer, this is another shot of some really overgrown vegetation. And I just wanted to remind folks, there are 3 different treatment zones in the canal treatments, or in the canal fuel break, with the most intense treatments in the first 50 feet. And that includes 50 feet on the downslope side and 25 feet on the upslope side. That's because fires typically run uphill. All woody vegetation up to 18 inches was removed in this area. And so I brought a prop today. That's an 18-inch ruler. And so you can imagine that's not a small tree. And so In this particular photo, all the vegetation that you see, with the exception of maybe the large tree on the right and the large tree on the back, was removed. That's a lot of flammable material removed away from our flumes. Zone 2 extended out from that Zone 1 150 feet, and then Zone 3 continued out to up to 300 feet on each side of the canal. And those zones were based more on density of the canopy and the slope to remove the materials. No problem. There's a bit of delay. Just bear with us. This is flume 46 before the project field break treatments. It is our longest flume at 3,339 feet. That's roughly 3/4 of a mile. Again, this is before treatments. Next slide, please. We'll do this little slide dance here. And here we are after the field break treatments. One of the project's goals is not only to remove flammable material adjacent to the canal because it's safer that way. It also, one of the goals is to make it clearly visible for our firefighters and air support in the event of a wildfire. You may remember that the forest canopy was one of the reasons that the air attack was unable to see the burning wood and flumes during the Caldor fire. So this goes a long way to hopefully help that. Would you mind going back to the previous slide so we can get one more before and after?
Yeah.
So there's before, flume 46, and going forward. I just, before we leave this slide also, that spillway shed right in the middle of the slide with the yellow sign on it, we're going to be seeing that shed from the other side of the canal, so remember that when we go a couple slides later. Next slide, please. Here's another flume section before the treatments, and you can see how the vegetation is growing on either side. That oak tree on the left-hand side is actually coming over the walkway of the canal. Next slide. Here's that same flume section from the previous slide, but looking from the opposite direction. I tried to remember to get all the same perspective, but when I got back to my desk, I didn't have all the same perspective. So it's the same area, just shot from the other side. Okay. Next slide, please. So here's flume 46 again after the treatments, but viewed from the opposite side. And if you can see sort of right there in the middle left, that is that structure that we saw before. So you can see how the crews really did a tremendous job both on the up and down slope side of that canal. Next slide, please. One last shot of flume 46. I like this particular shot because when I was sitting at my desk looking at these photos, I'm like, I can count maybe 24 of these stumps that were recently cut, and the amount of work to remove that out of the way. And I just thought this was a great illustration of what we have today on flume 46. Next slide, please. The work included about 7 acres of mastication and chipping on the relatively few flat acres that are flat-ish acres that there were out there. It also included the piling of vegetation like you see here, and that comes from the pruning of the larger diameter trees as well as the other ladder fuels that they collected and made into piles. This particular photo is taken from EID lands, and I think when I was at my desk I counted over a dozen piles, but we ended up with almost 200 piles of vegetation on EID land.
Wow.
Next slide. And here's the same area after the Growlersburg crews from Georgetown have done a fantastic job of burning those piles. I want to make sure there was nothing. Yeah. Oh, one thing. No, it's okay. You can stay right there. But one thing is that there are over 500 piles on the Forest Service portion, and the Forest Service is developing a burn plan to get those burned. Fingers crossed this year and possibly next year. Okay. So the GE Forestry contract amendment includes 561 trees that required either climbing or rigging, and that's at $249 a tree. And again, to remove a tree this big for $249, I think that was a very good deal. All totaled in the project, there were over 700 trees removed that required climbing. An additional 35 acres of treatments required by CAL FIRE and the Forest Service, and that averaged about $2,700 an acre. The amendment also included 4 larger diameter trees that were next to the canal that were out of the scope, but still needed to be removed to get the work done, and some existing cut brush that was chipped. For a total contract amendment amount of $239,097.90. Next slide, please. So the original GE contract, GE Forestry contract, was $309,670.30. Including this contract amendment, the total contract amount comes to $548,768.20, and this full contract amount would be funded through the hydro budget, but reimbursed completely with grant funds. I would like to say, even with this almost $240,000 grant amendment, GE Forestry's contract was still over $200,000 less than the next viable contract that was bid on back in the original bid. So this is a big amendment, but we're still under what we could have done for just the original work. Next slide, please. Oh, that is the next slide. Very good. The district was awarded a grant for $787,500. The GE Forestry contract total is $548,768, and this leaves about $238,000 of grant funds remaining. So we're looking at different options to spend these remaining funds, and one is maybe helping the Forest Service with their burn piles. The Forest Service has to, I think, order and be in charge of the burning, but we may be able to lend some assistance to that. So we might be able to spend some money there. We're also looking at field treatments around some other of our wooden flumes that are not in this project and some other district facilities. At any rate, we have until March 2029 to spend these funds. Next slide. So board options today: approve a contract amendment to GE Forestry Incorporated in the amount of $239,097.90 for vegetation management for the El Dorado Canal Field Break Project, Grant 23.01, Option 2, other action, or 3, take no action. Staff recommends Option 1.
I'll make a motion for Option 1.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions from the board? And any questions from the public? You have the question. Okay.
Well, not a question, but, you know, Director Dwyer and I have been active in the Fire Safe Council, and this is kind of like that convergence of protecting our water systems, you know, until we have the long-term solution for the wooden flumes and protecting the community. And so I see this as a great benefit and for both the district and the community at large in terms of fire protection, which is our greatest hazard. As water is our greatest resource, fire is our greatest hazard. So thanks for the hard work.
And I'd just like to add my compliments to the Doug and the vegetation management team for getting this project done under budget, pretty much on time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
And it's always good to use the grant money.
Absolutely.
Let's make sure it never expires, or at least we can spend it.
If I have anything to do with that, we'll spend every cent.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And tying in with the SPI work, you know, there are always these different things, and as much as we can integrate the efforts of different organizations and having a cohesive approach, just, again, everyone benefits.
Agreed.
All right.
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 7, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 7. Option 1, moved by Director Mansfield and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Thank you. Board members vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, voting aye, motion carries.
Thank you. So we'll move on. We'll move on to action item number 8. There's a report. I'm looking forward to this one.
Okay. Good morning, members of the board, General Manager Van Diar, members of the public. My name is Emily Bertram. I'm the Parks and Recreation Manager for EID, and I'm coming before you today to discuss the culmination of a lot of hard work working on upgrading our recreation reservation system. Previous board action, in December, the board adopted the mid-cycle budget, the CIP budget, and that financial plan. Next slide. Summary of the issue. So our current reservation system is quite outdated. We've been doing a lot of research and work, and the proposed replacement system is going to hit a couple of our key principles of increasing customer service and fiscal responsibility. And it's going to offer these 3 primary improvements that you see there: the increased customer satisfaction, reduced staff time, and improved financial reporting interface. So background. Less than a decade ago, all reservations to Camp at Sly Park were made either in person or over the phone at our reservation office. That office has typically been staffed by 1 or perhaps 2 people and handling, in 2024, over 7,000 reservations. So in 2017, went to an online system, and the current system is inefficient. It was great for, moving away from people lining up outside of the reservation office, but as our visitation has continued to kind of increase exponentially, it just no longer suits our needs, and it's just really not intuitive for users, either customers or staff users of the reservation system. Go ahead. So a little bit illegible, but if you could see the tiny, tiny line on the bottom, I believe that says 9,211 transactions for the month of July in 2024. The current system sometimes will duplicate reservations if the person has a reservation and then comes in and needs to pay for a pet fee. Sometimes the current system will duplicate that, leading to our reservation office staff needing to go line by line through all of those transactions and reconcile them manually in order to provide accurate financial reporting. And then as you can see to the right, the map is, of poor quality. It's a static map. If you touch that map, nothing's going to happen, which is something that, people sort of expect that map to do something, and it really doesn't. It just kind of sits there. So just sort of what we're looking at with our current system.
I have a thing. It's kind of like if you go to the movie theater, you can pick your seats. So.
Right. Or if you've, gone to almost any other campground reservation page, you can generally do something with the map rather than nothing.
Okay.
So we put out a request for proposal last October. We received 6 proposals, and of those 6, 4 were selected for a virtual interview. Camp Spot, Concourse, Let's Camp, and Vermont Systems. And those proposals did not come in any sort of apples to apples fashion. Each proposal had a different pricing structure associated with it. And so in order to allow staff to make kind of the best comprehensive decision, we reached back to those respondents and asked them to submit, using some 2024 numbers, to submit a cost proposal so that we could compare some bottom line numbers. And if you are interested, the numbers were a little over 7,300 reservations 23,500 credit card transactions and $1.65 million in revenue through credit card transactions. And you can see how the proposal sort of lined out there. Next slide. One of the things that we're really looking forward to is that we're going to update our payment processing through this. Currently, 80% of our revenue does come through credit cards, and that's either, through the reservation system or in person. And previously, the district has borne those costs internally. As part of our modernization efforts, we are going to be transitioning those to customer responsibility. And that's become increasingly, sort of customary. As you see, often your receipt will just have on the bottom, X% of credit card processing fee, which will be similar. It will be a line item that will be very visible to customers. And that is going to lead to approximately $50,000 in savings for recreation. As you are aware, recreation, we try to be self-sufficient through our own contributions. And so having that $50,000 will allow us to fold that back into doing some deferred maintenance, some things that, customers would like to see around the park, hopefully. And then that is also going to lead us to doing a bit of a fee restructuring. Because of the inefficiencies and the staff time required by the current reservation system, we do charge $10 per campsite. Now, that's if you are making one transaction for 3 campsites, you're paying $30 in reservation fees. We feel that due to the efficiencies that we're hoping to see with this new program, that we're going to reduce that to $10 per transaction, no matter how many sites a customer is reserving. That brings us in line with other local agencies, including Nevada Irrigation District, East Bay Mud, the Forest Service, California State Parks, and is in recognition of those anticipated time savings. And you can go to the next slide. So our staff recommendation is Vermont Systems. While this process did not require us to choose the lowest cost proposal by happy happenstance, Vermont Systems is the lowest cost proposal. The other vendors, one of the main things that helps with Vermont Systems is that they have integrated credit card processing, whereas all of the other proposals had a secondary company, and there just is a little bit more work that goes into financial reporting when you have to deal with a secondary company for credit card processing. And both on the reconciliation side up at the park and then on the banking side for the finance director and her staff. And this will go, Vermont Systems, back to those original 3 points. Vermont Systems is really going to help us increase our customer satisfaction and our fiscal responsibility. So here's our proposed 3-year agreement with Vermont Systems. You can see there's some initial fees, and then there's just the yearly software fees after that. So those first-year costs not to exceed $30,000, total 3-year not to exceed $60,000, which if we're saving about $50,000 a year in the credit card processing, again, we try to be self-supporting through our own contributions. Go on, please. So Vermont Systems, almost 40 years in the recreation business. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out a way to make this map live where we could touch it. I should have talked to Doug. He had some cool, but you can see what I did is take a screenshot. When you hover over a site on one of their maps, it brings up quite a bit of detail about that campsite, cost, availability, some pictures, a little bit of a description. And customers are going to be able to make, change, and cancel their own reservations online. It's just going to be a miracle for everybody involved. Currently customers do have to call and speak to a person at the reservation office in order to change or cancel their reservation. So this is really going to go a long way towards increasing customer satisfaction and just usability of the system.
And on the other side, the training of your staff to use this too. So
yes, and so on that
not an overnight thing.
No, and there's 1 or 2 previous slides. There is a significant initial training cost Vermont Systems is very dedicated to providing a high level of training. They even have yearly get-togethers in various areas of the country where they'll host not that I'm advocating that we're going to, fly off to Utah for a seminar on our reservation system, but they do offer in-person and frequent training and, get-togethers and all of that. So we're confident that we'll be able to get staff trained, but you're right, it's going to be a big lift to make this switch over. But we're really all looking forward to it. And I had couple more points, is that on the administrator side as well, we'll be able to far more easily close a site, if a tree falls and we need to close that site until the tree is cleaned up. There are communication interfaces, and then we'll be able to easily remove that site from the map until it's cleaned up and then put it right back again. Okay, and then on to the financial reporting. So as the district is aware, or as the board is aware, the district is in the process of selecting a new financial software. This Recreation or Vermont Systems is going to be able to communicate directly with that software, and financial reporting will be able to be downloaded directly, coded into general ledger terms, which is really going to reduce that manual reconciliation and manipulation that's currently required by staff. And as you see there, requires about 30 hours a month for staff to do just the reconciliation part of it. That's not even touching the amount of time that staff are on the phone with folks actually managing their reservations. So we're hoping to decrease all of that quite significantly and let him go back to some of his other duties as assigned. So, board options: award a contract to Vermont Systems in the not-to-exceed amount of $60,000 for recreation, reservation, and point-of-sale system services for a period of 3 years, beginning February 1st, 2026, and authorize the general manager to extend the contract annually for 7 additional single-year periods if in the district's best interests, subject to the annual contract amount increasing by no more than 5% in each contract year for the Recreation Reservation System Upgrade Project, project number 26012.01. Option 2, take other action as directed, or option 3, take no action. Any questions?
I do have a couple questions. One, the point of sales.
Yes.
I brought this to the attention of our general manager. I have a very dear friend who loves to go up there, but she's in a life of digital money, and in order to come up with $5 or $10, whatever, it was always difficult. She says it would be nice if we could just put my credit card on a scanner and I could pay for it that way. Is this going to be available?
It potentially. There are...
and a ticket comes out, just like a garage parking lot.
So you're saying without a person being involved.
Right.
So you're touching on something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is I would like there to be some more automated gate control options like that for folks. I'll come back with another future project on that. This does have some capabilities in that realm, but that also involves quite a bit more infrastructure to have a kiosk installed, to have some automatic gates installed that communicate with that kiosk. But certainly Vermont Systems does have the ability for more mobile pay options, but that also does require some more
regarding
input.
the gate.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly what her concerns was, because people couldn't make change.
Right.
And, when they were there and the line was getting longer. And all she wanted to do is just, so it was her suggestion.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And she works in financial packages for the state.
And certainly kind of that contactless payment is the wave of the future.
Okay.
It requires a little bit of connectivity. You know, you have to have good Wi-Fi, good cell connectivity for that to work, which we're, you know, kicking and screaming our way towards up there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'll move option 1.
Okay.
I'll second it. You know, there's no such thing as a free lunch, so somebody's paying for those Amex Air Miles and Marriott points, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that it's not the ratepayers.
Correct.
Emily, what is the cell coverage up there these days?
If you're standing right in my office, it's great. If you get much beyond the gatehouse, it starts getting really limited. Some places where you're kind of coming out and a little bit line of sight down the lake, you can find it. But generally, beyond the entrance station, it's spotty at best.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. So there is are there any comments from the public?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 8, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 8, option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Mansfield. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right. Members vote. Wrong button.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, voting aye, motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 9.
Good morning, members of the board and the public. My name is Stefan Shan. I'm a senior civil engineer with the district. This is a proactive funding request for a change order anticipated for the Reservoir A water treatment plant backwash to waste valve replacement project. And because of the ongoing development of the change order, we're asking the board to delegate certain authorities to the general manager so that we can expedite the process to provide a contractor with a direction. The previous board actions and discussions on this project include a design contract awarded to Hurway Engineering and associated project funding for the detailed and final design of the project in December 2024. And in April 2025, the board awarded construction award and the project funding for the construction phase of the project. And in November 2025, the board adopted the latest CIP plan that included this project. So this change order very much adds a significant structural improvement component to the original project scope. And the need for this improvement came out of analysis we've done that show that we have existing deficiencies on the area in the filter structure that we were not going to touch as part of the original project. And the small structural modification that we were going to carry out in the original project scope may exacerbate those deficiencies. And on top of that, the filter structures were factory designed and built a long time ago. We're not able to track down the original safety factors considered in the original design. And because of the ongoing development of the design of that change order, we're asking the board to approve the estimated funding at this point and then delegate the subsequent change order execution to the general manager. This is an overview of the Res A filter clusters. There are 3 clusters of filters. Each cluster has 4 cells, so there are 12 cells in total. The purple cells 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 were built in 1989, and the green cells 9 through 12 were built in the early 2000s. So the 1899 and 2000 builds, they were largely identical, except that in a 2000 build, we brought up the actuators to the backwash to waste valves from within the control columns to above the walking deck. And the figure on the right shows a section view of these control columns in the middle of the filter clusters. There are basically very deep, narrow cylinders that are packed with equipment. The columns are 19 feet deep and only 6.5 feet wide. And especially for the 1989 clusters, they were jam-packed with valves and actuators. On the bottom are the backwash to waste valves, and then about 11 feet down from the top are the actuators. So naturally, repair, maintenance work on these require confined space entries all the time. Because of the exposure to humidity inside the columns and the age, the components, the actuators, the columns, the valves, they're all severely corroded, and then we have several actively leaking valves. And the pictures on the top were taken in the summer 2024 when we began the design of the project. So although originally the project scope was largely a valve replacement project, one interesting component of the work was that we were going to raise the actuators in cluster 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 from deep within the control columns to above the walking deck. However, the orientation of the hatch prevents us from achieving that. That is illustrated in the figure in the bottom middle. The middle square is the hatch, and the little circles on the corners are the would-be locations of the valve stands when we bring them up from the control column. So you can see there's a physical conflict there. The way we were going to address that was going to cut a cylinder surrounding the hatch and rotate it 45 degrees and weld it back. So that way we make space for the stems. At the same time, we don't have to redesign the hatch. We can keep the same hatch. Yes. So one concern we had on that approach, although it's overall pretty innovative, was that the heat generated from cutting and welding may weaken the material strength surrounding the hatch, and we wanted to make sure that we would not negatively impact the strength of material to a point that it becomes dangerous to operators. So we conducted a specialized structural analysis on the control columns. But because of the control columns are part of the distribution box on the filter, and everything is connected structurally, we ended up building a model for the entire distribution box for the clusters. And the analysis showed that the concern we had for the control columns were nothing compared to the overloading stress situation we have on the bottom plates on the distribution box. The analysis showed that in certain areas we have overloading scenario of 3:1 compared to allowed material strength. And that number, although maybe overly conservative, we have never purposefully or systematically gone out to look for signs of structural deterioration, such as deflections and major cracks. We have found repairable cracks in recent projects, though. The figure in the middle shows a crack on the bottom distribution box plate when we added a new segment pipe in 2023. And then the figure on the right shows we found a crack in this project when the contractor was crawling inside the distribution box. So between the signs and the number shown in the analysis, it was concerning for the engineer and the contractor, and we ended up developing several improvement scenarios to see what we can do to alleviate this overloading situation. So at this point, this improvement obviously is not part of the original scope anymore. And at this point, we are still finalizing some details on the design of this structural improvements. So the contractor was not able to provide a definite final cost for this change order. So we put together a high-level estimate to inform the board of the magnitude of this potential change order. And that cost estimate included additional design, equipment, material, labor, and capitalized labor for district staff, and certain deduction from the bid items that came out with a total of over $1 million. And the change order scope will be to add reinforcements on the bottom plate for all 3 distribution boxes to reduce the overloading stress from the weight of the water, and to add reinforcements inside the control columns for the 2 clusters where we are doing the rotating and then welding. Because of the magnitude of the change order, which is very much doubling the original bid price, which was $1.1 million, we did consider quite a few alternatives in terms of project scope and schedule. A range from sticking just with the original scope or only implementing some of the recommended improvements, to delaying certain portions of the work and all the way to complete filter rebuild. But doesn't matter how we shuffle things, we can't get around very 2 important needs. One is to repair as many leaking valves as possible and as soon as possible before we have to return all filter online to set up Res A for this upcoming summer. And the second is to avoid any catastrophic structural or safety failures that could be a result of the overloading. So because of the 2 reasons, we recommend alternative 1, which is to proceed with the recommended improvements as part of this project. So I want to touch on the remaining work and a tentative schedule to illustrate the need for bring this up right now at this board meeting and then the general manager delegation. So right now we have work on cluster 9 through 12 completed, and we're going to begin work on cluster 5 through 8 the beginning of February, which is next week. And then that work will take about at least a month and a half. That brings us to mid to late March. And currently we have a deadline to return all filters online, which means we have to stop work and exit the work area by early April. So between that date and the fact that the next board meeting is not until February 23rd, we felt the need to bring this up right now to ask for a sequence approval where we get approval on funding at this point, and then have the general manager execute a change order when the pricing is reviewed, negotiated, and finalized. If we were to give an extension into mid-April, we may be able to do some partial structural work for the next cluster. But that depends on the water demand trends. And but overall, we will have to come back next winter to finish up cluster 1 through 4. And in addition to the change order execution delegation, we're also asking delegation to the general manager to authorize about $200,000 of funding estimate for this change order because of the level, because of the information we had at a point of estimate was very high level. So this is a table summarizing the funding history and request. In the 2025 to 2029 CIP, the project had an estimated budget of about $2.4 million. That was before the bid results were received. The 2026 to 2030 CIP didn't add any additional budget for the project, and we're funded about $1.7 million to date and have spent about $930,000. We're asking for an additional $1.04 million for this anticipated change order that will bring the new project total to almost $2.8 million. So the board option 1, authorized project funding of $1,030,095 for anticipated change order and $10,000 for capitalized labor for a total funding request of $1,040,095, and authorize the general manager to approve the change order and to approve contingency project funding of $206,019 if needed for the Reservoir A water treatment plant backwash to waste valve replacement project. So recommending option 1.
Okay. I'll move option 1 with a comment. I think this is an important project for our guiding principle number 1, 100% safety. Anytime we can remove the confined space
for our people that work in those areas. That's a very good thing. We have our own resident confined space expert here.
Yeah, that's my note right here.
So I think it's a good project. And didn't we do similar valve and actuator replacement, moving those up on the catwalk? It wasn't the backflow. What was it?
It was the inlet valve, right? Where we also added deck so that it's more accessible for operators.
Right. And this will be kind of a similar thing where we take the actuators and put them so they're accessible. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
All right. It has been motioned by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Penn to this option 1. Any comments from the public?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 9, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda.
All right. Anybody online? Nobody?
Doesn't appear there's any members wishing to speak on action item number 9, option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Penn.
I have an additional comment. I do appreciate you outlining the alternatives that you considered. I think that's a healthy exercise for us to do, maybe in a lot of our projects. And that answers questions for the board and the public. Says, well, why did you jump straight to this solution? Did you consider other things? So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good point.
And just another example of aging infrastructure. The biggest challenge we have, and as Director Dwyer indicated, seeing a 19 feet down, my safety professional confined space, hairs on the back of my neck go straight up. And then the fact that the potential overloading, we're impacting the actual structural integrity of that plant, and Res A is our workhorse. Most people don't realize that's our workhorse there. And with Res 1, having its challenges and the intertie not being completed yet, that is a threat to our overall integrity of our water system. So we have to do everything we can. I keep seeing 1989, things like that. That's a long time, and just by the pictures of the corrosion there in these structures, just highlights our need for addressing aging infrastructure. So thank you.
Okay, all members go ahead and vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, voting aye, motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to item number 10. Thank you very much for that description that we needed. Okay, welcome to our party.
Good morning, President Anzini, directors of the board, General Manager Vandiar. I'm Tracy Crane. I am the wastewater recycled water manager. I'm pinch hitting for Cody Smith this morning, who just welcomed the newest member of his family on Friday. This morning we're discussing liquid emulsion polymers for dewatering wastewater sludge, and the finished product is also known as biosolids. Previous board actions: in 2020, the board approved a 1-year contract with up to 4 extensions for the purchase of polymers that resulted from the previous dewatering polymer trials. And as I'll explain, because polymer trials are very time-consuming and require close coordination between operations, maintenance staff, and vendors, multiple extensions are desirable. Summary of the issue: the staff have recently completed the newest round of polymer trials and are now seeking board approval for contracts to provide liquid emulsion polymer for the Deer Creek and El Dorado Hills wastewater treatment plants. Background: so biosolids are nutrient-rich organic products that are generated from the removal of organics from the wastewater during treatment. During the treatment, microorganisms break down organic solid waste. The solids are then dewatered, producing biosolids. The dewatering process requires the addition of a liquid emulsion polymer to bind fine particles into larger particles so that they can be removed during mechanical dewatering. Polymer trials are conducted to ensure that the district utilizes products that provide reliable performance and deliver the best overall value. Because polymer performance directly impacts biosolids production, hauling cost, operational stability, the trials are structured to evaluate the product under real-world full-scale conditions. In September 25, an RFP was issued to begin the polymer trial process. So a little bit about the process. Vendors that had not previously supplied polymers that have already been used full-scale in the facilities had to undergo a two-step qualification product. First, the vendors are allowed they come out and they complete small-scale jar tests out at the facility where they do bench scale and figure out which one of their products they want to advance to full-scale dewatering. And then second, those products that do show promise, they advance into the second round of the process, and then we gear up to do the full-scale trials to test them. In October 25, vendors completed the jar testing. They select their top 2 performing products, they submit it to us, and they also submit sealed bids for those products before the full-scale trial so that the prices are already in before we go through the trials. Then they arrange for enough of that product to get shipped to the facility, usually in like a 55-gallon drum, so that we can run a full-scale trial on it. And I should say that although jar testing is essential, polymers that perform well in the jars don't always perform well when you introduce all the other variables into the process. So following the jar testing in December 2025, we moved into the full-scale evaluation of the products. So full-scale polymer
Tracy,
trials.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Here. Are these new polymers, or
So
is this some new composition?
If it's our existing chemical that's already being used full scale, it was exempted from the polymer trials. They can just submit a sealed bid on the product that we're already using for the new contract. If they want to test different formulations or other vendors come in that aren't the ones that are current in use, then they have to go through the two-step jar testing, then full-scale trials so that we can compare it to. We did not make our current ones because we already use those full-scale in the process.
So is there any problem with them, or is there?
No, it's just that every 5 years, when we go through the contract and the bidding process, we're trying to make sure that we get the best value for the district.
Okay,
So in order to introduce competition and bring other people in, they have to come in and do some testing and prove that their products work. And as I get into, it's kind of a complicated mathematical formula to figure out what the actual cost is. But then we can go through the whole process so that we can compare apples to apples on each one of the products and make sure that we're getting the best value.
Thank you.
So the full-scale trials actually do provide the most accurate evaluation of a polymer's ability to dewater solids under our actual operating conditions. Full-scale conditions introduce variables like sludge pumping, belt speed, compression zones, and behavior that can't be replicated on the benchtop. Next slide. Full-scale, as I mentioned, full-scale trials require close coordination between operations and the maintenance staff. Our maintenance staff have to thoroughly clean and flush the existing polymer system between each one of the chemical trials to make sure it's working. Operations staff then connect the trials while mechanical dewatering process stays in operation to maintain the continuous operation of the treatment plant. During the process, vendors are allowed limited adjustments when we get ready for the trial. They're allowed to adjust the polymer feed and blending system as well as belt press speed. All other operational parameters remain fixed, including sludge feed rates, and they remain to our facility standards to make sure that everybody's evaluated on a fair process. During each trial, vendors get up to an hour to make adjustments before they say we're ready to begin evaluation. At the end of the hour, or when the vendor says we're ready to go, the evaluation period begins. Once that starts, no further adjustments are allowed during the evaluation period. During that period, district staff collect performance data, including cake solids content, solids capture efficiency, and the polymer feed rate, so we know how much we're using. And the RFP established minimum standards for solids capture and cake dryness, so that you had to meet the minimum benchmark for your product to be considered. And then the overall value is determined by a weighted assessment of factors such as the cost, the achievable cake dryness, the polymer feed rate, and our disposal expenses. And often the lowest cost polymer doesn't result in the lowest overall cost because it doesn't achieve as dry a cake or it doesn't capture the solids. So, next slide. So after evaluating all of that, these are the two products that rose to the top. One of them is a current product that is the Deer Creek product, is a continuation of the same product. However, at El Dorado Hills, a new product proved to be a better value for the district. So these are the two products that we're seeking contracts for.
So I have a question. That really indicates that we're going to have two different types of standards?
They're not standards. The standards are all the same. So the sludges are slightly different at Deer Creek versus El Dorado Hills. El Dorado Hills employs anaerobic digestion versus Deer Creek employs aerobic digestion. So the sludge quality is slightly different. So different polymers work differently, if you will, on each one of the two different type treatment process. So the percent solids and the solids capture standards remained identical. You know, they both had to meet the standards, but different products work better at one plant versus the other plant.
Okay, thank you.
Makes sense. So for board options, award a 2-year contract to S&F Polydyne in the not to exceed amount of $75,000 for the liquid emulsion polymer at the El Dorado Hills treatment plant.
Wait, can I stop you, Tracy? So we will need to adopt option 2 because the option that is on the agenda is not the option on the screen. So this will be the option 1 shown up here will be option 2 if this is what staff would like you to choose.
Okay.
Good. Go. Do you see, Brian? If you look at agenda, the option 1, what's listed on the agenda and what's listed up there is not the same.
The first sentence is different?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it's the same, but it does not read the same, so I just want to make sure it's very clean action. So...
Would you like Tracy to read the
well,
text up there as option 2 first?
Okay.
So this will be option 2, and staff will, if this is...
Our recommendation will change to option 2.
Yes, thank you, Tracy.
Apologies. Option 2, award 2 1-year contracts to S&F Polydyne Inc. in the not to exceed amount of $75,000 for the purchase of liquid emulsion polymer at the El Dorado Hills treatment plant and $99,000 for liquid emulsion polymer at the Deer Creek treatment plant for a period of 1 year beginning February 1st, 2026, and authorize the general manager to extend each contract up to 4 additional 1-year terms with annual price adjustments limited to the average of the prior 12 months of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics West Regional Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. So option 3, take no action, and our recommendation will be option 2.
I'll move option 2 and commend staff on their efforts to take a science-based approach and make sure that we're finding the best value for the ratepayers here.
Great.
I'll second.
All right. It's been my brain is going crazy. I did not have coffee today, folks. We have a vote on the floor from Director Mansfield and seconded by Director Dwyer that we move forward and
if members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 10, please refer to the detailed instructions in today's agenda. President Anzini, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 10, option 2, moved by Director Mansfield and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Okay, all those in favor, vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, voting aye, motion carries.
Sorry about that. I think it was the option 1, option 2, trying to catch up with that one, and I was lost. So, all corrected. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item number 11. Making sure all the options are in the right place, right?
Good morning, Board. Patrick Wilson, Senior Civil Engineer, here today to present the Sterling Hills Pipeline Improvements Project. This is for construction contract, construction management and inspection, and construction engineering services. Holding on.
I'm completely confused. There.
We're just having a little connection problem here. Hold on.
You didn't bring me show and tell.
Not today.
So it is for
To date, yeah.
For today.
Let's just give it 1 second here. We may have to close the Zoom and just continue the meeting offline. Okay. Do you want to make the call?
Perhaps now is a good time to take a break and we can try and work out the technical issues.
Okay.
We'll take a 5-minute break.